Jody McDonald, John McMullen, joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Chris Franklin, who's off to church again today. What's that T stand for again? Trenton Times?
The old Gloucester County Times. The old Gloucester County. That's the building.
Yeah. No matter how many times Jody sees it, he thinks he's at
I pray at the altar of Chris Franklin. I feel I must genuflect whenever I see that T in the background.
Yeah. Well, you're sure as hell going to hell then. Holy crap. No,
that was long since predetermined. That was before you ever popped up with the T in the background, buddy. My direction, north or south, was predetermined. Yeah, I'm going down. Are the Eagles going down by signing Saquon Barkley? Was this a ridiculous, stupid, foolish signing? Or did the Eagles just get themselves back in the Super Bowl mix with that? I love the fact that everybody's got to go to the diametrically opposite ends. Oh, my God, greatest signing in Eagles history ever. Or what the hell is Howie Roseman thinking? We know that the answer's somewhere in the middle. What's your middle for Saquon Barkley, big guy?
My middle is I think looks like they're going all in on the offense and just trying to make that the strength, overall strength, and defensively, you're just trying to get it up ahead so you can let the defense try to get that pass rush. That's why I thought it was interesting with both moves, because now you got a guy who is so tough to try to defend. Like, okay, defensive coordinators have to go, all right, how the hell am I going to try to make sure I can defend him out the backfield? And oh yeah, I still got to worry about AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and that type of trying to take away. You got to take away one. So it's going to open up so much for everybody else. The thing is, to me, it's a high risk, high reward. I was shocked that they went. Honestly, I'm shocked that they went that high. They paid that much for a running back. I mean, and if I'm DeAndre and if I'm Miles Sanders, like what, guys,
Sanders.
What yeah. I'm not worth it. Like one of those things, but.
Well, that's what I look at this and I said that was my description, Chris, is typically I get the Eagles thinking. Typically, when they make a move, I may not agree with it, but I typically understand their thought process, and I usually agree with the thought process. Here, I don't agree with their thought process. Evidently, they think this player is worthy of busting the tendency, so to speak, of how they typically build the team at running back. And I just think they misevaluate the player. I think they're thinking about the 2018 Saquon Barkley, the Saquon Barkley before the torn ACL Saquon Barkley. I don't think he's been that guy. In 2018 in NFL years, that might as well be the Middle Ages. I mean, this league moves so fast. Did they get over? I'm trying to get the right word. Did they look at the San Francisco 49ers and what Christian McCaffrey did for the 49ers and just become so enamored with that they're going down the copycat route and saying, well, this is the next best guy we can get. Let's try to do what they did.
I think they should have copycat. They should have gotten that defensive line, started loading up on that and fix that defense. I think if anything, that would have been the side, but I think I do think that played a factor into it. I don't think it was an overarching thing. I think it was one of those things where they looked and say, you know what? If there's you look at the injuries that happened on this team, especially down the wet stretch, and you saw how much that offense changed dramatically in what they call. I think they say, you know what? We need to load up as many weapons as we can on that side of the ball in order to prevent something like that happening. If somebody were to go out, barring the quarterback, of course. But if something were to happen that way too, we just want to be so dynamic and tougher to cover and just try to basically outscore everybody that we're playing their style of philosophy of ball where they can just go up, get a big lead, and then try to rush the passer as much as they can. To me, the only thing I really look at this is like, you paid this big money. Could that money have gone to potentially signing McKinney instead of Saquon? And 13's a lot. If you did that, I think they just went and say, you know what? This is an offensive team. Offense beats out the defense.
And I will once again make my argument for Saquon is going to come here and kill it. 2018 Giants had Eli Manning, legitimate quarterback. Don't know if he's a Hall of Famer. We'll find that out this year. But he was still a legitimate quarterback at that time. Had a guy by the name Odell Beckham Jr., who was also in the young stages of his career and was one of the best wide receivers in the National Football League. And a legitimate offensive line. Not a great offensive line, but a legitimate offensive line. He's had none of that the last couple of years. So shockingly, his production's gone down because he's playing with Danny Dimes and Tommy DeVito.
Tommy
Of course
DeVito.
his numbers
Tommy
are going to go
Cutlet.
down.
But I'm going to go,
Oh,
wait a minute, though. Just in general, because Aaron Jones just signed this morning, Chris. And remember the playoff he just had, and remember the end of the season he just had. And he's too old to get a 2-year contract in this league. 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. And if the Eagles are going back to 2018 to evaluate a player.
No, you went back to 2018.
Well,
I don't know what the Eagles are doing.
But I'm saying I don't believe the Eagles are doing it. But you were going back to 2018 and saying Eli Manning, Odell Beckham Jr. I'm like, you can't go back to 2018. 2018's ancient history.
You said I have not seen the 2018 Saquon Barkley in years. Well, you went back to 2018. I went back to 2018. I explained why he was that good. He actually had teammates. He had nothing the last.
We're already arguing with Chris. We always argue when Chris is here. The explosiveness, the athleticism, it's gone since the ACL. Not gone. He's still a tremendous athlete, but he's not the same guy he was post ACL as pre ACL. That's my assumption. That's my presumption.
There's been years that have been tacked on, especially when you wear and tear with that thing. And the only other benefit I can see coming out of him compared to 2018 to now is that he's not playing on that turf up in MetLife. So maybe that gives him an extra year.
Help. Yes, that will help.
But I also look at that. He's taking some hits, even though he's taking some hits behind the offensive line. You can't, and to be fair, you can't say the automatic thing about the Eagles now because you got questions. Cam Jurgens, we haven't seen him at center in NFL, like a prolonged thing against number ones. And then you have a question. If you move him over for center, you got a question that who's going to be the right guard. So it's not a given thing that this offensive line. Like they have a shot, like the offensive line is not an automatic. I think with Stoutland, you can automatically think like, okay, you'll get these guys fair as best you can, but we still don't know yet because we haven't seen this new look interior right side of his line because it's very young.
I'm going to go way out on a limb and say, even without Jason Kelce, losing Jason Kelce, a Hall of Fame center, Jason Kelce, the Eagles' offensive line this year will be significantly better than the Giants' offensive line was last year. So I'm gonna predict on Saquon getting more yards this year.
I'm gonna agree with that.
The ball for the Eagles. You're gonna get out there on that limb with me, for those guys. Are you in with me? Come on, the Giants stunk this past. They had one of the worst offensive lines in the last 20 years in the National Football League. And you're going to judge Saquon Barkley because of the season he had last year playing behind that line of crap? I'm not.
They had my guy Tyre Phillips until he got hurt.
I liked him, man. I missed that. I missed him in the locker room. But yeah, I'd say all those hits he had to take because that line was awful. That wears down on you.
Here's the one thing I will say.
He had a terrible supporting cast, no doubt about it.
Here's the one thing I think was overstated. Chris did it. I got calls on it last night on WIP, the whole giant turf thing. I actually think that might not be as big a plus as big a minus as you guys think. He plays on it all the time. He knows that turf. Other players coming in on defense have no idea what that friggin' turf's all about. I actually think that's a benefit when you're on offense.
I'm talking for a health standpoint. It's good for him to get the hell off that turf. That's all I mean. I'm not saying just from a health standpoint.
Imagine if he played his whole entire career at the Eagles and he was on that type of grass because the Eagles use that blended stuff, but it's a lot better. It's a lot more grass. Imagine if he was on that type of thing, how much healthier he would have been, how much lead we would have saved, and how much spring he would still have on top of this. So yeah, it's just keep that damn turf.
Well, here
for World Cup.
here's the deal: 1,069 yards, Pro Bowl, 4.6 yards per carry. That's DeAndre Swift, somewhere 1060 something. The year prior, Miles Sanders, 1,260 something, Pro Bowl, 4.9 yards per carry, and he was over 5 for most of the year and struggled later in the year. That's pretty good. That's pretty good production. Let's say Saquon hits. How much better are you really going to get than that production? What is the ceiling? Are we talking about 1,600 yards? And if we are, how does that affect the rest of the offense? AJ Brown wants the ball. Devontae Smith wants the ball. Dallas Goedert wants the ball. Chris Franklin wants the football. How does that affect the offense?
Chris Franklin wants to throw it and get the heck out of that pass rush. Nah, I think when you look at the thing is, so Swift, he should have had about 1,200, 1,250 if you actually used him that stretch of games where he only had 21 touches between the two combined. So I thought he should have had even more. I think a good season for him, for Saquon, would be 1,600 yards combined, because I like the fact that you can keep him in. He can be the outlet. And I think there's going to be more of an emphasis this year of Jalen Hurts trying to utilize that outlet and throw to the running backs a little bit more than what we've seen what we saw last year. So I think overall, when you look at his overall thing, even when you have AJ, they can still incorporate that. Last year, they still could incorporate it last year. I think some of the play calling had something to do with it, and that actually had success. So they can still get the ball to AJ's, Devontae, Dallas, and still feed all those guys. It's just a matter of, instead of just going, okay, we're going to run a draw, we can go, okay, we can do a wide receiver dream, or put them in motion, do a quick
bubble
swing
screen.
pass.
Now, they use Saquon on the bubble screens, because I advocated they should have used DeAndre on the bubble screens, because running backs can make the first guy miss, whereas receivers are going to have a more difficult time doing that. I would like that.
I thought you were anti-bubble screen, period, Johnny.
I am. But I acknowledge
well,
it's
you
part
just
of
said
the
you're advocating using Saquon on the bubble
well, I'm
screen.
not. That's part of the modern NFL. I'm not. I don't stick my head in the sand. Everybody runs bubble screens. I think they're the most not aesthetic play in the history of football, but people throw them and they're going to use them. So if you're going to do it, you might as well utilize it the best way possible. That's where I am.
The one thing I'm really looking forward to, and I know it's getting like two check and everything else, but they use that bunch formation. You put Saquon on the outside, and Kellen Moore likes to use that late motion that's in vogue right now, forcing defenses to really make late adjustments and scramble on that one. So you put him in motion, and somehow you get him lined up against a linebacker or a safety in space and let him be able to run that. He's not Christian McCaffrey in terms of his route running, but he's a decent route runner. You put him in space, you can get 5, 10, maybe 15 yards a chunk. If you get a missed tackle, as we saw, or you get a guy against, like, say, a guy like Nolan Smith, which we saw last year, get him in that space up the sideline, you get some explosive plays out of that.
Yeah.
All right, Chris Franklin, need your reaction to this. I said this earlier in the show, and I'm standing by it. Bryce Huff under Washburn equals Jason Babin under Washburn. Now, it's two different Washburns, but the results will be the same. 1 year wonder comes in and gets everybody excited.
I think this is your Jets angst coming out.
And then crash and burn.
Like, for me, if this was the plan to replace Hassan or Josh, I have a little angst, because to me, I have reservations about him being on the first down or second down, typical running downs. I don't want him to get run over. I don't want to be out of position or anything else like that. If for 1 year, and I know the only thing you probably get back is comp picks, which wouldn't help you for 2026, I think it was 2026, something like that. I'd keep all three. Personally, I would, because you don't have to pay you're paying the defensive tackles on rookie deals. You still have Nakobe Dean on a rookie deal. You got other guys what they're paying. I'd roll with him for just 1 year. Have him be your rotational piece. Because the last time you look at when the Eagles are really successful, they have two pairs of edge rushers that really get after the quarterback. You look at 2017, look at 2022. They had two consistent lines that really got after it. If you add him, say that offense is up, and then you add Huff to go along with, say, Sweat or Reddick, what have you, and you have that, and you rotate him for Rosie Smith, Graham, and all that stuff, going after the quarterback when they're up, I think that adds a lot more depth, and this makes his defense a lot more potent than having that.
I brought this up with Lesbo when we had him on earlier. I'm going to bring it up with you now. How is that going to play in the locker room? Yeah, we know we got you on the cheap for the last 2 years, Hassan. We know you overachieved your $15 million per, but just shut up and play. You're under contract. Come back and play. And then we'll get a comp pick for you when you go out the door after the year. How is that going to play in a room that lost Jason Kelce, Fletcher Cox, and has a head coach that's probably on the hottest seat in the National Football League? One of your actual best players and leaders, you're going, shut up and play. How's that going to work for the Eagles in the locker room this year?
I think if Howie or Nick said that, as it says, shut up and play, I think we probably would see, like, we hear rumblings of a fight going on inside the Novacare Center. But I look at the fact and say, you know what? I think it's going to happen. I think I, if anything, I think Sweat would be the one who stays just because of his age and stuff like that. But I really think, like, you got to, you can't ignore that type of thing. And even if he's upset, like last year, you could tell, like, when Bosa got signed, and you tell it was like he wanted to be among those people, and you could tell it was in his mind some of that. I think that's one of the reasons why he didn't talk, because he's very honest, and if he did that, and it really created a thing. So I would be surprised if he just says, like, if it happens, we may not be able to talk to him as much because he wants to keep that quiet, not rock the boat. And I don't think he'll be a malcontent outwardly saying, like, nah, pay me, or I'm not saying outwardly, but it wouldn't sit right. But I think at the same time, when you get game 3, game 4, game 5 of the season, and then you realize, you're doing pretty well, depending on what the schedule have is, I think that'll take care of itself, and just got to roll with it and take the chance, or at least for one season.
Well, we talked about this before you came on, Chris. The Eagles have to do something for 2 reasons. One, they don't want him to play under the final year of his contract because of his cap hit, which is pushed all the way back, and it's over 21 million. So they want to adjust it too. You said something interesting about Bryce Huff that I hadn't considered. If they are able to work something out with Hassan Reddick, they bump him up to 19 million, 20 million, whatever. Get that cap number down. Do you think they would pay $17 million for a third rotational rusher as that, guy reliever, so to speak, coming out of the bullpen on third down to go get the quarterback? You think they would do that?
It would be conventional, but I think when you look at the positions that they really value along in their overall organizational philosophy,
yeah,
that would be that. I wouldn't say it's completely out the realm. I think it still could be a possibility. Would I put guarantee and say right now, hey, you know what, you got to make a decision right now? You're not. I probably say no, but you can't take that out the realm of possibility, because edge rusher, corner, tackles, quarterback, those are the ones they really value.
Yeah, and the cap has gone up significantly.
And this is where I differentiate with the Eagles just in general, but I think they're coming around. I got less problems paying a back 12 million and change than I do a 1 down out of every 3 defensive edge rusher 17 million. You're paying a guy 5 more million per to play 2 less downs out of every 3. Saquon's going to be on the field every single down. We agree with that? He's a 3-down back. There's not going to be very infrequently Kenny Gainwell coming in for a change of pace. Kenny Gainwell just saw his playing time get cut significantly yesterday. So you got a guy who plays 2.5 downs per series as compared to a guy who plays 1.5 downs per series. I'll pay more to the guy who's playing 2.5 more down, 2.5 downs per series. That's why I got no problems with the Barkley deal.
See, I'll counter that with the third down. When you look at this team's third down defense, and it was last year was atrocious. You can say a lot of things with the defense, especially late, was atrocious. But when you look at the third down defense and the ability when it comes to rushing the passer, getting the ball out quicker, not having to
Reddick get more sacks than Huff did.
Yeah. 11, but of course, quarter one, he had more than 6.5 of Josh Sweat as well too. But I think when you look at, you rotate those guys in, you just need rushers. You need to get that ball out quicker than what have, instead of letting these quarterbacks go apart, pick it apart. Because now you're not relying on Slay and Bradbury having to cover as long as you can. You're not relying on whoever's going to be in the slot to cover as long as you can. So they just need guys to basically go out there and just make the quarterback uncomfortable as quick as you possibly can. And I think even for 1 down,
well, if Pop can play against Jack Driscoll each week, the Eagles are going to get a star. You know that. But Huff had 10 sacks, I think, in 440 snaps, and Hassan had 11 in 910. So that was the difference in the. Now, it's all relative.
440 snaps. That's a part-time player.
Yes, it is. But the
they
pressure,
pay 17 million per season for a part-time player.
The pressure percentage is off the charts. That's the trick of free agency. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to find the younger guy with upside who can become more than what he has been. Again, I go back to Brandon Brooks being the best example of that in recent Eagles history. Nobody knew Brandon Brooks coming out of Houston was going to be the best right guard in football. He developed into that here in Philadelphia. That's what you're hoping to do in free agency at all times. And that's why I get with Huff, I don't know if it's going to work. Nobody knows if it's going to work, but I get it. I get it. I don't get Saquon because 1,500 touches. As we said, the injuries, tread off the tire. He's not 30. Like I brought up Aaron Jones because he was so good down the stretch of last season, but he's 29. He's got a lot of tread off the tire. He got a 1-year deal. They're giving Saquon all this money. It doesn't make sense to me. So maybe it works, but it's not typical Eagle thinking. Is that crazy or am I off the reservation, Chris?
Well, yeah, it's like the fact they give that much money for a running back is, to me, this is the biggest running back signing to me since Ricky Waters, because that even back then when that happened, I was like, okay, yeah, especially coming off the transition tag and everything, yeah, that was a lot for them. But I still look at potentially say maybe if I had to say, like, if somebody would say you can have DeAndre Swift and Aaron Jones, we can have Saquon by himself, I'd probably save a little bit more money, and also I think I could have gotten a little bit more to try to address that defense. But still, that's, to me, that's, it all matters. Like the Saquon sign, I want to see what they do with the rest of the defense, because if they're able to fill out a lot of the holes with impactful guys, because that one, then okay, I can justify the Saquon sign. If they say, oh, we ran out of money and we didn't have enough to fill the positions that we needed to.
Well, you brought up an interesting point I didn't think about. Like, does that affect you going after Xavier McKinney?
I think it did.
You have to bail out on that. But at some point, don't you need to bail out if it goes too high? Because he got 17 million. I don't think anybody saw that coming. So maybe they just bailed out because it went too high. But it's an interesting discussion. I will say that.
All right. So I'm gonna hold both your feet to the fire here. Who's gonna be a better per dollar player for the Eagles next year, Huff or Barkley?
Ooh, per dollar
player. They paid Mr. Huff, who had one good year, 3 years, made the NFL out of Wisconsin, undrafted. He's no TJ Edwards, I can tell you that. And they paid him $17 million off one big statistical year. Barkley had one of the best rookie seasons ever in the National Football League. And with the Giants has been on a steady decline ever since. But his level is what his level is. Now you're adding him to a better offense. I don't know that you're adding Huff to a better defense, because Jets defense was pretty damn good in that last year. So I think Huff might actually take a step backwards rather than a step forward. Who's going to earn their salary more this year, Huff or Barkley?
I think Barkley is. I think
Same here.
Just overall, I think just you're looking at him, that I look what you can do with him, and there's so many options. I think he makes everybody else better. So I think overall, Barkley would be that guy. If
I'm betting, I would agree with you guys. I think the Eagles better hope it's Huff. They better hope it's Huff, because they need. And the assumption is one of them's going to be gone, Hassan Reddick or Josh Sweat. They need a pass rush, and they're going to count on this guy to give them a pass rush and a consistent pass rush. So they better hope it's Bryce Huff, because they have other things on offense, plenty of skill position players. So I'll ask you to put on your Kellen Moore hat, Chris Franklin, and all of a sudden, Kellen Moore, this looks great on paper. This is off-season talk. This is vacuum talk. Oh, I got AJ, I got Devontae, I got Dallas, I got Saquon. As you mentioned, I'm going to get Saquon in a bunch form. I'm going to get him in space. You talk all this stuff in the offseason. Then the games come. And you got to keep everybody happy. And they all think they're stars. And for the most part, they're right. And they all want to be involved. Good luck, Kellen Moore. What about the dream team vibe of this? Have the Eagles gone a little bit too far in, let's put an all-star team together?
No, because I think when you look at when he was with the Cowboys in 2021, you look at that team that they had. Yeah, Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard as running backs, which if you compare that, maybe looks at say, hey, that's Saquon and Kenneth Gainwell-ish, because Pollard and Gainwell or
Yeah,
similar type
yeah.
player. I'm not
They're
going to
both from
say,
Memphis. They're both
yeah,
from
I'm not going
Memphis.
to say there's a gap here. I'm not going to say like, oh,
Yeah.
Gainwell is that, but that. And then you look at Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb. I think Gallup was there too.
Yeah.
And look at
And
that, AJ
Gallup,
Brown, Devontae Smith.
Gallup
So,
pre ACL was a good player. Post
yeah,
ACL, not so
so I
much.
think he knows, he's been through this before. I think he knows that. And that, by the way, that offense in 2021 finished the top offense in the league too. So I think he's got experience with that. I think he'll get him in a good position and got no qualms about it.
Right. What year was the Dream Team again?
2011.
2011.
2011-ish.
And who was one of the key acquisitions Dream Team year?
Was that the Ronnie Brown?
That's
Was it
not who
Ronnie
I'm
Brown?
referring to. Nor Vince Young. Nor what DB did they get?
Oh,
They
not the
signed
other one?
Jason Babin as a free agent in 2011. That's right. 2011 was the Dream Team. Jason Babin, 18 sacks. How'd that work out in year 2 for the Eagles with their big free agent signing?
Hey, it worked out better than most of them. At least they got a year. At least they got a production for a year. Worked out better than most of them. But it's not, and I shouldn't bring up the term Dream Team because I got in trouble with that yesterday. But I'm not saying in free agency.
Trouble from who?
Fans. I'm joking.
Okay.
Who cares? But I'm not talking about how they're approaching free agency. I'm talking about just putting an all-star. I should use the term all-star team. Putting together big names, big name trap, big name. AJ's at the top of his game. AJ's one of the best receivers in football. Devontae Smith, phenomenal. Dallas Goedert, let's be honest, coming off a bit of a down year. I think it was underachieving from his standpoint. And I don't think Saquon's in the category of AJ and Devontae, but he's a big name. And with big name, with big contract comes big expectations. And that's why I was talking about free agency in general, Chris. And I'll end it here at C. Franklin News. Make sure you follow Chris on Twitter, X, NJ.com. You can read them there. Generally, the really, really star players in the NFL, the Chris Joneses, the Brian Burnses, they never get to real free agency because they're tagged. They might get moved like Brian Burns.
Jones did.
Chris Jones. But he re-signed. He gets deals. I'm saying they never get to real free agency where they can choose where they want to go because they're tagged and they're working out and they're going to be in Kansas City or they're going to be in Carolina or Carolina's going to make the decision to trade. They never get true baseball NBA free agency where they can just pick a place where they want to go. The best players. So you get to the top players on free agency, and Albert Breer pointed this out this morning from 2022. It's basically B-level players getting A-level money and A-level expectations. And then they get cut in 2 years, as Jody's pointing about with Jason Babin. That's generally what happens. Is that fair to say or unfair? Are we looking at Saquon Barkley, A-level expectations, B talent, Bryce Huff, A-level expectations, B talent? Is that too harsh?
I think it's a little harsh. I think Huff still has a lot of years to improve. They're paying for projection with Huff. That's all that is. That money's like, okay, we're going to try to get him more cheap if he really takes off, and then all of a sudden he gets like 16, 17 sacks, excuse me. Then you look at that contract and go, wow, that was a good deal for the time because the cap's going up and he's going that one too. I still think Saquon's a talent. I really think he is. And the only thing that concerns me is the injury thing. And even if you get 2 years, but those 2 years you say go to an NFC Championship game, maybe a Super Bowl in one of them, then it's completely worth it. You'll take that risk over any time because that means that one too, especially if you win it too. So I look at that talent. I look at what overall we can do. And overall, the talk excited. And you made your division opponent weaker. They were already weak to begin with, but you made them weaker. So to me, it winds up being worth it too, in my opinion.
All right, we'll finish it on this note. As you mentioned, your competition in division, your rivals. Will the Dallas Cowboys sign a free agent today? They took the collar yesterday. Ofer, Jerry, we're all in this year, signed no free agents yesterday. Will they get one today, Chris Franklin?
I think it is. I think Jerry's going to break into Steven's room and go like, "What are you doing? I need this. I need the Cowboys to be buzzed. We need to be on ESPN. We need to be on sports. We need to be everybody talking about us. Why haven't we done anything? We got to change something." And it'll be
real quick. When are people going to realize the Cowboys are not a splashy team? They have never. Jerry's not a splashy guy. He doesn't. But for some reason, well, he is when he talks. He says it, but and people assume he makes all these crazy. They're one of the most conservative teams in football. They have been for years.
Jerry talks the talk much more than he walks the walk. You are 100% right, Johnny Mac. All right, we're running late. We got to let Chris Franklin go. We got to thank him for joining us. Appreciate your
coming down to Lando, Chris Franklin.
I'm
Lando
forward to that.
signing his contract.
70 degrees here out there, 70 degrees down there. I'm looking forward to that in a couple of weeks. That's gonna be good. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah, nice day out. Yes.
Oh, God, I love this time of weather. Birds might be. Oh no, maybe a couple of weeks. Maybe the birds might make an appearance again.
We're gonna bring the Franklin Birds back to the show. We're very much looking forward to that.
It's nice.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks,
guys. Have a good one.
Chris Franklin, NJ.com, here with us on Birds 365. All right, quickie timeout, come back. We're going to put a bow on the show, going to wrap things up for you here on Birds 365. Hey, Birds fans, here's your chance to save upwards of 40% on your car insurance right now from one of JAKIB Sports' great partners. Here's what you need to do. Call managing partner either Jim or Fran and tell them you're a friend of both JAKIB Sports and Birds 365.
My name is Fran Salerno, and I'm a managing director here at Del Valle Insurance Group. Been in the business for over 36 years, saving people money on their insurance needs. Give us a call. Let us help you custom design an insurance plan that meets both your needs and budget.